Who were the Crusaders? Why did they travel thousands of miles to a land they had never known? Why did Jerusalem fall into their hands? And how did a young man named Saladin rise from the shadows to take it back? This is not just a story about war. It's the story of a city sacred to three great religions, a story of faith, power, loss, and one man's journey to restore hope. This is the true story of the Crusades, of a forgotten war, a legendary warrior, and the soul of Jerusalem. Title: Saladin, the Lion of Islam. Who were the Crusaders and where did they come from? In the late 11th century, Europe was boiling with chaos. Feudal lords fought each other. The church sought to unify them with one goal: a holy war. In 1095, Pope Urban II called on Christians to march east and liberate Jerusalem from Muslim rule. Tens of thousands answered the call. Not knights alone, but peasants, thieves, adventurers, all under one symbol: the cross. They came from France, Germany, Italy, walking thousands of miles through hunger, death, and battle. These were the Crusaders, and they were coming. How did Jerusalem fall in 1099? In the summer of 1099, after 3 brutal years of marching and fighting, the Crusaders reached the walls of Jerusalem. The city was defended by a small Fatimid garrison, tired, underprepared, and outnumbered. Inside, Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived side by side, unaware of the storm about to come. On July 15th, the Crusaders breached the walls. What followed was not a battle. It was a massacre. Men, women, children were slaughtered. Streets ran red with blood. Even Christians from the East, Arabs, Greeks, were not spared. For 2 days, Jerusalem burned, and those who came in the name of Christ turned the holy city into a graveyard. What happened to the Muslims after Jerusalem fell, and how did Saladin rise? After Jerusalem fell, the Muslim world was silent, divided, broken. The once great Islamic empire had splintered into rival kingdoms: Fatimids in Egypt, Seljuks in the east, and countless warlords in between. There was no unity, no caliph to answer the call, and the Crusaders took more: Antioch, Tripoli, Acre. But in the shadows of this chaos, a new force was quietly rising. Not a conqueror, not yet, but a boy. Born in a small fortress in Tikrit, in modern-day Iraq, in the year 1137. His name was Yusuf ibn Ayyub. History would remember him by another name: Saladin. How did Saladin rise to power, and how did he unite the Muslims? Saladin did not grow up dreaming of war. He loved books more than swords. He studied the Quran, law, and the lives of great leaders, but destiny had other plans. He joined the army of Nur ad-Din Zangi, a powerful ruler in Syria who dreamed of pushing the Crusaders back into the sea. Saladin proved himself, not just as a warrior, but as a man of wisdom, mercy, and faith. In 1171, after the death of Nur ad-Din, Saladin took command of Egypt. And slowly, through diplomacy, strategy, and patience, he began to unite the Muslims under one banner. For the first time in decades, Muslims stood together, one army, one purpose: to take back Jerusalem. The Battle of Hattin, the turning point. July 1187. The Crusaders had gathered their full strength to protect the kingdom of Jerusalem. But Saladin had a plan. He lured them into the dry hills near a place called Hattin, far from water, far from safety. Under the burning sun, the Crusaders suffered. Their ranks broke, and Saladin struck. It was not just a battle, it was a collapse. The Crusader army was destroyed. King Guy of Jerusalem was captured, and Saladin, for the first time, stood at the gates of Jerusalem. The liberation of Jerusalem without bloodshed. October 2nd, 1187. 88 years after the Crusaders took it in blood, Saladin entered Jerusalem in peace. There was no massacre, no revenge, no burning of churches or slaughter of civilians. Instead, Saladin offered protection to Christians, to Jews, and to those who had once called the city home. He cleansed the Al-Aqsa Mosque with rosewater. He rebuilt, he restored, he forgave. Even his enemies spoke of his honor. Richard the Lionheart, his greatest rival, would call him the most noble enemy I ever knew. Saladin's victory was not just of land, but of character, of mercy, of leadership that still echoes through history.